Thanks for that warm welcome, and I know that I am going to be a letdown after this incredibly powerful, eloquent, and insightful panel, but I am here really just to say thank you to this incredible audience of magnificent women and a few good men. And I am about to go to Groton, to the subbase there, where I'm going to be meeting with the Chief of Naval Operations at Groton and touring with him, as I have done on other occasions, electric boat, so that he can see not only the incredible engineering and scientific prowess, but the workforce that we have there, which is increasingly a woman workforce, a female workforce, because women have the skills and also the management expertise that is so vitally necessary there and in our armed services. I'm on the Armed Services Committee, and I'm going to be encouraging him very bluntly to make sure that women are made a part of the top ranks of our armed services, countering some of the doubts that I have about this administration's commitment to women leaders in our armed services. I'm going to take this picture with me. You know the old saying, picture is worth 1,000 words. This picture is worth 1,000 of my words about the strength of our business and professional women's workforce in the state of Connecticut. And it is a tribute to the Eastern Chamber. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Megan. Congratulations to Megan Gilbert on assuming the role of presidency. And thank you all for being a part of Connecticut's future in being the mentors and the role models. I'm going to speak very personally for a moment because I am the new grandfather of two young granddaughters. One is now just about 6 months old. The other is 4 months old. Two different families. In my family, my wife's grandfather, when her older brother was born, said to her father, "Well, it's great you had a son. Tell me when you have a daughter and we'll celebrate." So I am now, without having any grandsons, the great beneficiary of two granddaughters. And when I look into their eyes, I wonder what their future is going to be like. Right now is a particularly daunting time. It's a dark time for me sometimes when I'm down in Washington, where I go at the beginning of the week and come back at the end of the week. I come back every weekend. I love coming to Southeastern Connecticut. Tony Sheridan, who is also a great friend. Thank you, Tony, for your leadership. Tony has been executive director since 2004 of the Eastern Chamber. I can't leave the stage without thanking the Eastern Chamber and Tony and all of its leadership over so many years for providing a model of what it means to bring together a community, and not just the business community, but the professional, the service, and the academic community, because that is the way that Connecticut's economy moves forward. And I'm looking forward to a lot more years of working with the Eastern Chamber. Thank you all for being here today. And thank you for this wonderful program and allowing me to be a part of it. Thanks so much.
So we're happy to have you join us. And I want to personally thank you for speaking at the Niantic No Kings rally. Thank you for that. I was very cold in the audience, but we were happy that you were there. I didn't know if you wanted to take a question from the audience.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
sure. Love to. I think most of you know what the SAVE Act is. Certainly, Stephanie knows what it is. Stephanie is doing a wonderful job as our Secretary of the State. Thank you, Stephanie, for protecting Connecticut's fair and open election system. And what the SAVE Act would do is essentially undercut, in fact, eviscerate our elections along with the systems of every other state in the country. It sponsors, and I apologize, I'm going to be a little bit partisan here, but it is a Republican bill supported by the president who says that we should not pass any measure funding or appropriating any additional money. We've cut off money for ICE and CBP. He says we should not provide any money or do anything else unless we pass the SAVE Act. It would be really destructive to election systems all across the country because it would purge voter rolls. Republicans call it an identification act, but it's a voter purge act. Connecticut would be required to submit voter names, personal information on every single one of you who are registered to vote. And that information would be matched against other information by the federal government and secretly purge voter names from the rolls. So you'd show up on election day and find you're not registered to vote. In order to be re-registered, you'd have to show your passport and your birth certificate. Now, for a lot of women, you'd also be required to present your marriage certificate because your name may be different now than it was on your birth certificate. And for people who don't have their birth certificate, they'd have to go find them or get a new copy at expense, get a passport at expense. It would, in effect, disqualify millions and millions of Americans from voting. And I think Kristi Noem put it best in her explanation of why they want this measure, so that the right, quote, the right people would elect the right leaders, end quote. So what is the status of this measure? It's presently before the United States Senate, and it will not pass the United States Senate if I have anything to do with it. And he's issued an executive order that eliminates mail-in balloting. He has launched a very strategic, targeted campaign to undermine our elections. I apologize. I know I'm sounding partisan. We have, I'm sure, Republicans in the room, but especially if you're a Republican, you should contact any Republican senators or congressmen you know and tell them, defeat the SAVE Act, preserve our election system. Thank you for the question. Thank you very, very much. I hope that some of you will come visit me in Washington and also invite me to any of the events or gatherings. As you know, I get around the state quite a bit. But it is so helpful for me to hear from you, especially at a time when we can lose perspective, given the kind of contention that we see in Washington. I started in politics at a very different time, when there was a lot more working together, to be really blunt. I do my best now on issues like Ukraine, where I've led a bipartisan group to support Ukraine, on issues like internet safety, particularly for children, the Kids Online Safety Act, again, a bipartisan initiative with the Republican senator from Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn. Right now, I am leading a letter today, which I hope will be bipartisan, urging that the sanctions on Russia, which were waived, be reimposed. We lifted the sanctions on Russia, as you know. I think we should impose those sanctions because Russia is invading Ukraine, as it has done for the last 4 years, and it's providing intelligence to Iran to target our troops in the Middle East. Again, bipartisan. And so thank you for that comment. Thank you to all of you. I'm going to continue trying to be as bipartisan and work together, work across the aisle, because we can't accomplish anything unless we do work together. And that's really one of the messages I take away from today as I hear from you. Thank you. The GRID Act relates to data centers and the effect of data centers on our energy prices. As you know, data centers are going to consume huge amounts of electricity. And the GRID Act, which I have led, which again is bipartisan, would require the operators of data centers, big tech, to provide their own electricity for the data centers that they build. They're enormously profitable, and the point is that you and I, as consumers, should not be paying for them. If they want to build data centers, which may be very important and constructive to economic progress, the burden should not be put on small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and everyday consumers. I think there is a developing consensus that we need to do something. There are a number of different proposals like mine. I'm going to work to bring them together in one bill, one bipartisan bill. But the other looming challenge is what the data centers will help support, which is artificial intelligence. And this is an area that cries out for guardrails and oversight. There are some really powerful columns and articles in today's New York Times, which I recommend to you, about the potential dangers. There's a lot of upside, but a lot of dangers as well to AI. And so we are just beginning to understand the potential costs, along with the benefits of the data centers, the impact on our supply of electricity. The costs of electricity in Connecticut are among the highest in the nation. We ought to be paying special attention to the impacts of those data centers on the cost of electricity and energy. Thank you for that question. Again, many, many thanks. What a great group, and I'm so honored and excited to be with you today. Keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you for your services, Senator Blumenthal.